My father forced me to marry his business partner when I was 30 years old. I barely knew him. For 6 months, I tried to make our marriage work, but something was always wrong. Then I found his second phone, and everything made sense. My husband was gay, and I was just his cover story. My name is Rebecca, and I'm 30 years old. I grew up in a traditional family in Connecticut. My father, Richard, built a successful real estate development company from the ground up. Everything in our family revolved around business, reputation, and maintaining appearances. Love and happiness were never part of the equation. Only success mattered. I have one older brother, Marcus, who works with my father. He's the golden child, the heir to the empire. I was supposed to be the perfect daughter. Go to a good college, get a respectable job, marry well, and give my parents grandchildren. That was the plan they had for me before I was even born. I tried to follow that plan for most of my life. I went to Yale, studied business, and got my MBA. I worked at a marketing firm in Manhattan. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. My father never approved of any of the men I brought home. They weren't successful enough, wealthy enough, connected enough. There was always something wrong. By the time I turned 29, my father started getting impatient. At family dinners, he'd make comments about me getting older, about how I needed to settle down soon. My mother would join in, talking about how all my cousins were already married with children. The pressure was constant. Then, 6 months after my 30th birthday, my father called me into his office. Not his home office, but his actual corporate office downtown. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. "Rebecca," he said, sitting behind his massive desk like he was conducting a board meeting, "I have an opportunity for you." An opportunity. That's what he called it. Not a conversation, not a discussion, an opportunity. "Daniel Morrison and I are merging our companies," he continued. "It's a $200 million deal that will make us the largest development firm on the East Coast. But Daniel is concerned about family values, legacy, stability. He's 35, unmarried, and his parents are putting pressure on him just like I've been putting pressure on you." I felt my stomach drop. I knew where this was going. "You and Daniel would be perfect together," my father said, like he was describing a business merger, which I suppose he was. "You both come from good families. You both understand business. You're both at the right age. This marriage would benefit everyone." "Marriage?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, I've met Daniel maybe 3 times. I don't even know him." "You'll get to know him," my father said dismissively. "Your mother and I barely knew each other when we got engaged. Look at us now, 35 years of marriage. 35 years of a cold, loveless marriage where my mother lived in quiet resignation and my father prioritized business over everything else. That's what he was offering me as a model." "I'm not doing this," I said, standing up. "I'm not marrying someone I don't love just because it's convenient for your business." My father's expression hardened. "Sit down, Rebecca." I sat, not because I wanted to, but because that tone of voice had been trained into me since childhood. "Let me be very clear," he said. "If you don't do this, you're cut off. No more trust fund, no more family support. You'll be on your own. And I'll make sure no one in our social circle or business network helps you. You'll have nothing." "You can't be serious," I said. "I'm completely serious. You have 1 week to decide. Marry Daniel and secure your future, or refuse and lose everything." I left his office in shock. I called my mother, hoping she'd talk some sense into him. But she just said, "Your father knows what's best, dear. Daniel is a nice young man. You could do much worse." I called Marcus, my brother. He already knew about the whole thing. "Come on, Becca," he said. It's not that bad. Daniel's a good guy. Rich, successful, good-looking. Just marry him and make Dad happy. What's the worst that could happen? I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I spent the next week agonizing over my decision. On one hand, I didn't want to be forced into a marriage with someone I barely knew. On the other hand, I'd been raised in wealth and privilege my entire life. The thought of losing everything, of being completely cut off from my family, terrified me. I wish I could say I was brave. I wish I could say I told my father to go to hell and walked away with my head held high. But I didn't. I was scared. And after a week of my father's threats and my mother's guilt trips and my brother's dismissiveness, I agreed. I agreed to marry Daniel Morrison. The engagement was announced at a joint family dinner. Daniel was there, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. He was handsome, I'll give him that. Tall, dark hair, blue eyes, successful. On paper, he was perfect. But when he looked at me across the table, there was nothing in his eyes. No warmth, no interest, just resignation. We barely spoke during the dinner. Our fathers dominated the conversation, talking about the merger, about the future of the company, about legacy. Daniel and I were just accessories to their business deal. After dinner, Daniel walked me to my car. "I'm sorry about all this," he said quietly. "I know this isn't what either of us wanted." It was the first honest thing anyone had said to me in weeks. "Then why are we doing it?" I asked. He looked away. "Because sometimes it's easier to go along with what they want than to fight them. And because," he paused, "because I have my own reasons for needing this marriage to happen." I should have asked him what those reasons were, but I was too exhausted, too defeated to care. We got married 3 months later. It was a huge wedding, over 300 guests, at an estate in the Hamptons. I wore a dress that cost more than most people's cars. Daniel wore a custom tuxedo. We said our vows in front of everyone we knew, and when the officiant said we could kiss, Daniel gave me the briefest, most passionless kiss I'd ever experienced. Everyone applauded. Our fathers beamed with pride, and I felt absolutely nothing. The honeymoon was a week in the Maldives, separate bungalows over the water Daniel had arranged. "I thought we'd both appreciate some space," he'd said. I didn't argue. We spent the week barely seeing each other. He went diving. I read books on the beach. At dinner, we made polite conversation about nothing important. There was no romance, no intimacy, nothing that resembled a real marriage. When we returned home to New York, we moved into a penthouse apartment that Daniel had purchased. It was beautiful, modern, expensive, and completely cold. Daniel gave me my own bedroom. "Until we're more comfortable with each other," he said. I should have known then. I should have realized something was very wrong. But I told myself we just needed time. We were strangers forced together. Of course it would be awkward at first. Weeks turned into months. Daniel left for work early and came home late. We had dinner together maybe twice a week, always polite, always distant. He never tried to touch me, never suggested we share a bedroom, never acted like I was anything more than a roommate. I tried to talk to him about it once. "Daniel, this isn't normal. We're married, but we don't even act like friends." "I'm busy with work," he said. "The merger is taking up all my time. Things will get better once everything settles down." But things didn't get better. They got worse. I started noticing things, little things that didn't add up. He had 2 phones, and he was always protective of one of them. He'd take calls in another room, speaking in hushed tones. He went out several nights a week, always with vague excuses about meeting clients or business associates. Our families kept asking about grandchildren. When were we going to start a family? My mother was particularly pushy about it. You're not getting any younger, Rebecca. You need to give us a grandchild soon. How could I tell her that my husband had never even seen me undressed? That we'd never been intimate? That our marriage was a complete sham? I felt trapped. Trapped in a marriage I didn't want, with a man who clearly didn't want me, living a lie to satisfy our family's expectations. Then, 6 months into our marriage, everything changed. It was a Thursday night. Daniel had said he'd be working late, which was normal. I was home alone, which was also normal. I'd made myself dinner and was watching a movie when I heard his phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. He'd left it there. He always had both phones with him, but he'd left one behind. It kept buzzing. Text after text. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But after the 10th buzz, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked it up. The screen was locked, but I could see the preview of the messages. They were from someone named Alex. Miss you already. Tonight was amazing. Can't wait to see you this weekend. You looked so good tonight. My heart was pounding. He was cheating on me. My husband, who barely touched me, who acted like I didn't exist, was having an affair. I felt sick, but I also felt something else. Anger. Pure, hot anger. I tried to unlock the phone. I tried his birthday, our wedding date. Nothing worked. But then I remembered seeing him type in a code once. 6 digits. I tried it, and the phone unlocked. What I found destroyed everything. The messages with Alex were intimate, romantic, everything my marriage wasn't. But it wasn't just the messages. There were photos. Photos of Daniel with another man. Alex, I assumed. They were at restaurants together. At what looked like someone's apartment. In some of the photos, they were holding hands. In others, they were kissing. My husband was gay. I scrolled back through months of messages. They'd been together for over a year, since before our engagement. They were in love. Real, actual love. The kind of love Daniel and I would never have. There were messages about me too, about our wedding. Alex. I can't believe you're actually going through with this. Daniel. I don't have a choice. My father will disown me if I don't. You know how he is about family image and legacy. Alex. So you're just going to marry her and pretend to be straight? Daniel. It's not forever. Once my parents are gone and I inherit the company, we can be together properly. She doesn't need to know anything. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I wasn't just in a loveless marriage. I was a prop, a cover story, a way for Daniel to maintain his image while living his real life in secret. I was still sitting there, staring at the phone, when Daniel came home. He walked into the kitchen and froze when he saw me holding his phone. Rebecca, he said, his face going pale. You're gay, I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't deny it. He just stood there, looking like a trapped animal. How long were you planning to keep this from me? I asked, my voice shaking. Forever? Were you just going to use me as your cover story for the rest of our lives? It's not like that, he said weakly. Then what is it like? I stood up, holding the phone toward him. Because from these messages, it looks exactly like that. You married me to keep your father happy and your secret safe. I'm not your wife. I'm your alibi. He sat down at the kitchen table, putting his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he said. You're right. About all of it. I should never have agreed to this marriage, but I was desperate. Desperate? I said. I was desperate too. My father threatened to cut me off completely if I didn't marry you. But at least I tried to make this work. You never even gave us a chance." "Because I can't," he said, looking up at me with tears in his eyes. "I can't be attracted to you, Rebecca. I can't make myself feel something I don't feel. I'm gay. I've known since I was a teenager, and I've been hiding it my entire life because my father would rather die than have a gay son." I sat down across from him. The anger was still there, but I was also starting to understand. We were both victims in this situation, both trapped by fathers who cared more about appearances than our happiness. "Tell me everything," I said. "The truth. All of it." So he did. Daniel told me he'd known he was gay since high school, but had hidden it from everyone. His father was old-fashioned, conservative, religious. The idea of having a gay son was unthinkable. So Daniel dated women, played the part of the straight son, and hated every minute of it. He met Alex 3 years ago at a business conference. Alex was a marketing executive, openly gay, living an authentic life. They fell in love. Daniel wanted to come out, wanted to be with Alex openly, but his father threatened the same thing mine had. If Daniel came out, he'd be disowned, cut out of the will, removed from the company. When his father started pushing for marriage, Daniel panicked. That's when my father proposed the arrangement. 2 birds, 1 stone. Daniel gets a wife to satisfy his father. My father gets a successful son-in-law. Everyone wins, except us. "I thought I could handle it," Daniel said. "I thought I could keep you and Alex separate, have a marriage on paper and a real relationship in private. But it's been killing me. Lying to you every day. Watching you try to connect with me when I knew I could never give you what you deserved. I hate myself for it." "Does Alex know you're married to me?" I asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "He hates it. We fight about it constantly. He wants me to come out, to leave you, to stop living this lie. But I'm scared. I'm 35 years old, and I'm still scared of my father." I understood that fear. I was 30 and still scared of mine too. We sat in silence for a long time. Then I said, "We can't keep doing this." "I know," he said. "I want a divorce," I said. "Not because I hate you, but because we both deserve to be happy. And we're never going to be happy like this." "Your father will be furious," Daniel said. "So will yours," I said. "But maybe it's time we stopped living our lives for them." Daniel looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw hope in his eyes. "You really mean that?" "Yes," I said. "I'm done being trapped. I'm done pretending. I'm done living a lie to make other people comfortable." We talked until 3 in the morning. We made a plan. We'd get divorced as quietly as possible. Daniel would come out to his family. I would tell my family the truth. And we'd both face whatever consequences came. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. The next day, I called my father and told him I wanted a divorce. He exploded, exactly as I'd expected. "You've been married 6 months!" he shouted. 6 months! And you're already giving up?" "We're not compatible," I said calmly. "This marriage was a mistake." "A mistake? I arranged this marriage to secure our family's future. You're being selfish and childish." "No, Dad. You arranged this marriage to secure your business deal. You didn't care about my happiness. You never have." "If you go through with this divorce, you're cut off," he said. "I mean it, Rebecca. Not a penny." "I know," I said. "I'm prepared for that." And I was. I'd already contacted a lawyer. I'd already started looking for my own apartment, something I could afford on my marketing salary. I'd already started separating myself from my family's money and influence. My mother tried to talk me out of it. Marcus said I was making a huge mistake, but I didn't care anymore. For the first time in my life, I was making a decision based on what I wanted, not what they wanted. Daniel came out to his family the same week. It went exactly as badly as he'd feared. His father disowned him on the spot. His mother cried and said he was going to hell. His siblings were split, some supportive, some horrified. But Alex was there for him, and Daniel finally got to live his truth. Our divorce was finalized 3 months later. The families tried to keep it quiet, tried to spin it as an amicable separation. But the truth came out eventually. Daniel was seen around the city with Alex, and people put 2 and 2 together. The gossip was brutal. I heard all the whispers. Poor Rebecca, married to a gay man. Poor Rebecca couldn't keep her husband. Poor Rebecca, such an embarrassment to her family. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in years, I felt free. I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. It was nothing compared to the penthouse I'd shared with Daniel, but it was mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. I came and went as I pleased. I answered to no one. My father made good on his threat and cut me off completely. No more trust fund, no more family money, just my salary and my independence. It was scary at first. I'd never had to budget before, never had to worry about paying bills or affording groceries. But I learned. And I found that I actually liked being self-sufficient. Work became more fulfilling. I got a promotion at my marketing firm because I was no longer distracted by the mess of my personal life. I made new friends, people who liked me for me, not for my family name or connections. I started dating again, but this time on my own terms. No pressure to find someone suitable. No worrying about whether my father would approve. Just meeting people and seeing if we connected. I went to therapy to process everything I'd been through. The forced marriage, the betrayal, the realization that I'd been used as a cover story. It helped me understand that none of it was my fault. I was a victim of my father's controlling nature and Daniel's desperation. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Daniel at a coffee shop. He was with Alex, and they looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. "Rebecca," Daniel said, looking surprised to see me. "How are you?" "I'm good," I said honestly. "Really good." "This is Alex," he said, introducing us properly for the first time. Alex extended his hand. "I've heard a lot about you. I'm sorry for the role I played in everything that happened." "It's okay," I said. "We were all just trying to survive in an impossible situation." We talked for a few minutes. Daniel told me he'd started his own development company, separate from his father's business. He and Alex had moved in together and were talking about getting married once same-sex marriage was legal in New York. "I'm happy for you," I said, and I meant it. "You deserve to be happy." "So do you," Daniel said. "I'm sorry I couldn't give you that." "You did give me something," I said. "You gave me a reason to finally stand up to my father, to take control of my own life. In a weird way, our disaster of a marriage was the best thing that could have happened to me." He smiled. "I'm glad you see it that way." I left that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in years. Because it was true. That forced marriage, as painful and humiliating as it had been, had set me free. Now, at 31, my life looks nothing like what my family had planned for me. I'm not married to a wealthy businessman. I don't live in a penthouse. I don't have the perfect life they envisioned. But I have something better. I have freedom. I have autonomy. I have the knowledge that I can survive on my own without my family's money or approval. I have a career I'm proud of. I have friends who actually care about me. I have an apartment that's truly mine. I have the ability to make my own choices, my own mistakes, my own successes. My relationship with my family is complicated. My father and I barely speak. My mother sends occasional guilt trip emails about how I've disappointed them. Marcus and I have a surface-level relationship where we pretend everything is fine. But I'm okay with that. Because I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who supports you, who loves you unconditionally. And my biological family never did that. They loved me conditionally, based on whether I followed their rules and met their expectations. I've found a new family now. Friends who became my chosen family. People who celebrate my independence instead of punishing me for it. Do I want to get married again someday? Maybe, but only if I find someone I actually love. Someone who sees me as a partner, not a business arrangement. Someone who chooses me, not because his father demands it, but because he genuinely wants to build a life with me. I'm in no rush. I've learned that being alone is better than being trapped in a relationship that makes you miserable. The forced marriage taught me that. It taught me that appearances mean nothing if you're dying inside. That wealth and status are worthless if you're not free. That sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is also the most necessary. Standing up to my father was terrifying. Getting divorced after 6 months was embarrassing. Starting over with nothing was humbling. But it was worth it. Every difficult moment, every whispered comment, every struggle to pay my bills, it was all worth it. Because I'm free now. Free to live my life on my own terms. Free to make my own decisions. Free to be myself without apology. I heard through mutual acquaintances that my father regrets cutting me off, that he expected me to come crawling back after a few months, begging for forgiveness and financial support. But I never did. And apparently it bothers him that I'm doing fine without him. Good. Let it bother him. Let him realize that his daughter is stronger than he gave her credit for. Let him live with the consequences of choosing business over family, control over love. As for Daniel, I wish him nothing but happiness. We were both casualties of our father's expectations, both forced into roles we never wanted. But we both found our way out, and that's what matters. Sometimes people ask me if I regret the marriage, if I wish I'd been braver and said no from the beginning. Honestly, no, I don't regret it, because that experience taught me who I am. It taught me what I'm capable of. It taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, braver than I knew, and more resilient than anyone expected. It taught me that freedom is worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything. My name is Rebecca. I'm 31 years old. My father forced me into a marriage with a man who was gay. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and it was also the catalyst for the best decision I ever made. The decision to choose myself, to choose freedom, to choose a life lived on my own terms, regardless of what anyone else thinks. And that decision changed everything. If you're in a situation where you feel trapped, whether it's by family expectations, financial pressure, or fear of the unknown, I want you to know that there's a way out. It won't be easy. It might cost you relationships, money, status. But your freedom is worth it. You deserve to live a life that's authentic to who you are, not who other people want you to be. You deserve happiness, not just the appearance of it. You deserve love, not just an arrangement that benefits everyone but you. It took me 30 years to learn that lesson. A forced marriage to a gay man to finally understand it. But now that I know it, I'll never forget it. I'm free. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth more than that.